Okay, I'd like to welcome today. I consider my We're good? Okay, better? All right. So, welcome to our January 19th, 2021 Sayreville Board of Education meeting. Excuse me. Please take notice that this public meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Excuse me. Further, in accordance with NJSA 10-4-6 through 21, a copy of this notice was posted outside the Board Secretary's office, and a copy was also filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Sayreville. Please rise to salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Hill, please.
Mr. Balca?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Mrs. Kenny?
Here.
Mrs. Napolitano?
Here.
Mrs. Pabon?
Here.
Mr. John Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Patrick Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here. And if you would be so kind, could you summarize executive session, please?
The board discussed personnel including but not limited to agenda items.
Thank you. Okay, at this moment, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular and executive sessions, I believe from our January 5th meeting?
So moved.
Mrs.
January
Bloom?
5th and December 15th.
And December 15th, that's right, we put them back on. And December 15th, excuse me. Mrs. Bloom, second by?
Second.
Mr. Walsh. Excuse me. Roll call, Ms. Hill?
Mr. Balca?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Mrs. Napolitano?
Yes.
Mrs. Pabon?
Yes.
Mr. John Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Patrick Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes. Okay, I don't believe we have correspondence, and I don't see any student representatives unless I'm missing them. Okay, so we will go to, I'll go right to, I guess, Mr. Walsh. You have highlights for us today, Mr. Walsh?
Yes, I do. Congratulations to Sayreville War Memorial High School senior Elise Lerner, who was one of 6 students in New Jersey selected as a 2020-2021 New Jersey Future Educators Association Ambassador. As a member of the Center for Future Educators Advisory Board, she'll be participating in upcoming conferences and events at the College of New Jersey. Congratulations and commendations to Sayreville Middle School 7th grader Amelie Safri, who along with her Girl Scout troop 81430 out of North Brunswick collected personal funds and donations from family and friends in order to purchase holiday gifts for families staying at the Ozanam Family Shelter in Edison. Again, a great job by our students.
Great, thank you, Mr. Walsh. And we have our budget presentations. Dr. Labby?
Yes, Mr. Esposito, I'm happy to say that we are going to resume our budget presentations. As you all remember, back in December, we kicked off our budget presentations for the 2021-22 school year with our food services presentation. So today, in accordance with our 2021-22 budget development calendar, we're going to resume with presentations by Dr. Shetty on curriculum and instruction, athletics by Ms. Badami, and by the high school, middle school, and our elementary schools consolidated. We're going to actually begin with Ms. Badami in her athletics presentation. Then we'll go to Dr. Shetty, and that will be followed by Mr. Rubino and the high school team, then Mr. Glahuski and the middle school team, and then our upper elementary and elementary school principals will present together their consolidated budget. But before we do so, I want to give a big shout out to our amazing supervisors, directors, and principals that make up our administrative team. I can't thank them all enough for taking the time to come out tonight and show their support. I have to say that every day they impress and inspire me with their hard work, their dedication, and most importantly, their incredible leadership. So we thank them very, very much. With that being said, Ms. Badami, if you're ready, can you please join us? As we've done each year for the past couple of years, when you're done your presentation, we're going to ask that you sit at the table with the Board of Education so that the board can ask you any questions that they feel the need to. Again, as we have done in the past, Board of Education members, you know that we provided you with a preliminary balanced budget. You saw what we cut. Many of our administrators that are going to present tonight are going to talk to you about what they have in their budget, what's been cut from their budget, and they're going to correlate that with the goals that they have set forth for the next school year and the funds that they're going to need to achieve those. So please take note of whatever points of emphasis that they make, because if and when we do have the luxury of being able to bring back items that were cut, we want you to refer back to these presentations so that you can identify anything that you might have heard that you feel really is necessary for us to bring back. And before we let Ms. Badami go, just a reminder, at our next Board of Education meeting, which will be February 2nd, Mr. Naster will provide his special education presentation. Mr. Glock-Malloy will provide his on technology. And then Mrs. Howell will provide her presentation on transportation. Ms. Badami?
Good evening. Drew, do I use this or are you going to click the? Okay. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Can you guys hear me through this?
Yep.
Okay. So to start off my presentation, I start off the same way every year because now I've had the honor and privilege of being here for a full 5 years, and that's kind of how I base my budget. And I work with the coaches to get them on a good 5-year plan of what they're doing. So basically within this 5-year budget recoil, that we equally distribute all of the funds for all of the teams. And if the budget just stays as is, we can do the same thing year in and year out with that budget and add all the new things that the coaches want. If we want to add things like teams, middle school teams, certain, even big items, I've now incorporated in this rotation that we don't really have to ask for any extra money to get these big ticket items. So some of the things that we got to do last year, because my big ticket item was getting middle school teams, and unfortunately with COVID that got cut. But through the regular budget itself, we were able to finally get a new golf cart, keep the old golf carts up to date. We were able to upgrade some technology, get a new camera in the gym, which worked out perfect timing because we cannot have any spectators, and we can now have the availability to record and or hopefully live stream our games for the parents that come and watch. And then of course keep all those minor repairs of rims, padding, all of that to keep everything up the way the programs are supposed to be run. So those are the things that we were able, and we will continue to accomplish things like that. Again, if we keep this 5-year plan and cut nothing out of the athletic budget, things that I'm looking forward to getting this year would be a large storage container. We're running out of space to put track mats and keep outdoor equipment safe. So we need a new large container. We need new track mats. We're up for new AEDs this year. Things in my budget that I can't really control would be, if rental fees or athletic dues go up, but if they don't, we have the same amount of games, the same amount of everything, so nothing really would need to be increased. And then, of course, I want to keep up on the technology, and as long as we make a 5-year plan with the new technology we've implemented, again, we really don't have to increase the athletic budget at all, unless we want to add things. So let's talk about the things I'd like to add. Last year, I made a whole presentation on why we need a second middle school set of teams. So I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm looking to add back in those second middle school teams. And because we did the pilot program for those second middle school teams, and we're able to form a co-op with South Amboy for field hockey, The things that we can also grow upon is adding a freshman field hockey team and growing our cheer program. So our cheer program, you know, we have been growing it. It's a little unique that it's only a varsity program. So we have a lot of girls who want to come out and cheer and who would be great for sideline cheer, but not really skilled enough yet, as maybe freshmen and sophomores or whichever combination, to be a competition or a halftime display team. So we would like to grow a freshman and JV cheer team to accommodate the amount of girls who are capable at that level if it wasn't just a varsity team. Okay, so I'm gonna go over some of those things. So this was from last year. I'm not going to repeat these statistics because I did them all last year and you can see them, but the main concept of this is that we have a ton of students who want to do athletics, okay? We have roughly 550 students that come out for athletics, and if we only have one middle school team, we can only keep about 230. So that's cutting at least 70% of kids who want to participate in athletics. And it was shown this year. One, we didn't have a huge reduction in numbers because of COVID. There were, I would say, a marginally less, maybe 10% less that came out, but unfortunately, we didn't get that second middle school team, and with COVID, normally we can house, you know, maybe 20, 22 on a middle school team, and that's really keeping 2 full teams anyway, but we really had to cut down to maybe about 15 players, which a lot of kids, unfortunately, this year got cut, more so than I ever wanted to, but we had to keep within those constraints. Moving forward to next year, without any of these constraints, we can boost our numbers a little bit, like I said, with one team, but there's enough for 2 teams plus, and I'd rather keep the cutting down to a minimal than cutting, 70% of the kids and only being able to keep a small amount of kids. So that's really what this slide says about middle school, and I made that pitch last year. And the more kids we can keep engaged after school raises attendance, raises awareness, raises grades. It really is so beneficial, and it's not like we're pulling the kids. We have the kids, and we don't have the space to offer them without that second middle school team. As far as all right, so let's concentrate. We'll concentrate on that first. So this is a brief overview of numbers. I know you really can't see it. To be honest, the most amount of money is going to cost is in the coaches. Okay, coaches, the salary portion of it. In my personal athletic, the athletic budget, it will not cost anything more in supplies. That will be wrapped into that 5-year plan. It will not cost anything more in uniforms. It will only cost for officials. So the only addition besides, like I said, which is not part of the coaching budget, more the personnel budget, but besides the coaches, it will only cost official fees to get a second middle school team. Okay? Now, for cheer, again, it's only going to cost coaching fees, okay? So right now, the cheer coaches get paid through 2 seasons, and they do a lot of work through 2 seasons. I would really like to open it up to a fall season and a winter season, and utilize the 3 coaches to do a freshman team, a JV team, and the current varsity team that we have. And again, it won't cost anything extra in uniforms. We've been easily planning for this and can put that in our 5-year rotation. It doesn't cost anything in officials because they're not competing, they're going to games. And then we can also expand to not just have a competition team in the winter. We can have, they already cheer for basketball, but we can accommodate more girls by having a cheer squad and a competition squad. So some that solely go to the basketball games that may not be qualified to actually compete, but we can open up spots for more girls. And there's girls out there that would like to do that. So again, it's with the middle school teams and with the cheer teams, it's just paying the coaches and officials, as well as I would love to add a freshman field hockey team. The middle school program pilot worked the best with field hockey. The most girls came out for that. We can easily provide them 2 middle school teams, and we with the pilot program enough and keeping this year and working hard and keeping a little extra this year, we have enough. I think we'll have 13 returning freshmen, and that's not with more freshmen that may want to come out, and that's enough to have a freshman program. So it would be great that if we could house that rather than shoving them all on a JV team. And if we continue to do that, some aren't going to get playing time, they're going to drop off, and the program's going to go back to not having a freshman team. But there's freshman soccer, there's freshman basketball, there's a lot of freshman teams. Field hockey should have that same availability if the girls are there to have a freshman team. And again, it will only cost the extra in officials to run the games, and of course the coaching salaries. Okay, so if we look a little bit at an overview, so those are the things that I don't even want to say I want. I do want them. We need them, or that's what our population is looking in, and it would be really beneficial for the athletes. So the first option is all the wants. So if we just add in the official fees, like I said, it's not a huge increase to the athletic budget. The huge increase is going to come on the coaching salary side. The uncontrollables in my budget. So now the next page is really going to show this well, but there's 2 things I can't control in my budget. That is when official fees go up. So this year was an increase in official fees. They all get $1 or $2 extra. And if overall tournament fees or NJSAA dues go up. So like I said, if we added no new programs and we just kept the budget at the 5-year rotation, we can still get new things with the way with the coaches and I are planning. And we wouldn't have to add anything to a budget any year except that minor inflation if official fees go up, okay? So they have gone up this year, so there's that would be a minor increase that are the uncontrollables in the budget that I'm asking not to be cut. And then from 2019, last year, on top of not getting the middle school budget, normally in the large equipment where we get our wrestling mats, our track mats, those kind of things to keep programs going, we originally had a large number, like 11,000 there. Only 6,000 was given last year, and that's where we were able to get the golf cart and make some more repairs. So I would like to get back to that 11,000 so I can keep that 5-year rotation going well. Without that, the track mats are going to be very hard to get. The storage container is going to be very hard to get. We're going to have to spread it over farther and make things last longer and really do some interesting budgeting to keep things safe and repairs on the up and up. So, so how I'm breaking this down is that there's an amount already being cut out of the athletic budget. That is my main priority, is to get the athletic budget back to not having that amount cut. And then on top of that, I would like to add the middle school and the cheer teams. But that's, that's where, we need all of it. But at some point, each year I'm going to be coming back up here because we're growing, and I want our students to have the best availabilities, is to get those programs instilled. But if we don't instill those programs and cut the amount that is being proposed to cut out of the budget, I just want to let you know what will be affected by those cuts. So first of all, there is a substantial amount that is proposed to cut from officials. Now, this is very hard to do because you need officials. So if you have a soccer season that is an 18-game season, now you don't technically have to play all 18 games. You have to play on the varsity level your division games. So normally division games are anywhere from 14 to a full 18 games, depending on how many is in your division. If we start cutting official fees, if we only get 14 or 16 division games, we're not going to be able to pick up those extra 2 games. Why are those 2 extra games important? They're important for excellent teams, and they're important for stinky teams, okay? They're important for excellent teams to keep growing our excellence. So that allows us to pick up someone who can prepare us for the NJSIA tournaments, to go somewhere outside so we can see what we're up against. And it's a great learning experience, and it's a great tool for our great teams. It's even more important for our stinky teams, because if we don't have such a good team that year in the white or red division, and we're getting killed by all the other teams in our division, well, those extra games allow us to go pick up competition that really does well for our kids. Right now we can pick up competition that we might win a game or end on a win, or put us in a better position that way, and give us a sense of being able to grow and accomplishment. So having the availability to have a full 18-game season is really important. If we are stuck with a full 18 game in some of the divisions, then we're going to have to start not having so many freshmen or JV games. So we're going to have to take away from the lower levels if we can't pay enough officials to do these games. So cutting that amount out of the officials' realms, it's going to take away from tournaments that we do and opportunities for our athletes. There's a chunk being cut out of maintenance every year. There's about $4,000 in minor repairs. So some of the minor repairs we did was the golf carts that we still have. We want to keep them running. We want to utilize them. So we have to keep up on their batteries, get chargers, replace rims in the gym. All the training room beds were cracking and open. We replaced all of them. So we need our minor repair account. Things that then things would, it just wouldn't be good for our athletes, and aesthetically it wouldn't be good. And then along the lines, not doing those minor repairs are going to cost us to buy bigger objects and repair larger objects. Because if you don't repair a rim, then you're going to have to repair a backboard. Okay, so you got to keep up on those. There was a proposal to cut from the overall supplies. Again, I don't ever ask for anything more in supplies because we have a good 5-year rotation. If we can keep the amount we have in supplies, even if we add the extra teams, as long as we have that amount, even if we add the extra teams, we have a good rotation for uniforms, we have a good rotation for equipment. We can add more teams without adding any more supplies. Rentals, there's a significant amount being cut from rentals. That is out of our control. Again, you go to a golf course, it costs X amount. So either we have a golf team or we don't have a golf team. We either have to pay for it, the amount that's being paid for. If we take away in rentals, then we can't house going to a pool. We can't house going to a bowling alley. So those are things that are just fundamental in running those sports. The thing I could play around with is probably the porta-johns. Maybe I could get one less, save a little bit of money, but that would be about it from that rental area. And then the last thing is the large equipment fund. Like I said, 2 years ago it was about $11,000. Then it got cut down to $6,000, and now we're cutting it down to zero. If we're cutting it down to zero, well, those are things that we buy, and it's equal throughout all the programs. There's a 5-year rotation of buying benches, buying chairs, buying scoring tables, clock, wrestling mats, cheer mats, track mats, goals, golf carts, safety netting, nets for goals, baskets, wall padding, storage units. And I don't need more each year for those things. I just need a consistent amount so that I can plan to get those things in an even rotation every year. And if you cut that all away, then I'm going to have to pull from other things, because at some point you're going to need a track mat, and it's going to be deemed, just like the wrestling mats, not usable. And then we'll be scrounging from other places instead of keeping it consistent through there. So the order in which I'm asking for things, or kind of showing you, is that if you don't cut anything at all from the athletic budget, we can sustain, and we can keep everything going. And then if we do eventually add programs like the middle school program, it's a very minor amount in official fees to add these programs. But if we have that same amount in the athletic budget, I can swallow and rotate for uniforms and equipment and all of that with those extra teams in there, because they're using a lot of the same equipment. There's always going to be an increase in official fees. If we don't swallow that, then, like I said, we just have to rearrange to play less tournaments or play less games. And I hope not to do that, because that would affect the younger kids, not the varsity teams. And then lastly, if you could manage it, I would love to put that proposal last year of the middle school programs. I think it's so important, and the only thing I want to say about that is we have 550 kids who want to play athletics, and with a second middle school program, we can house almost all of them. If we don't have a second middle school program, we cut almost 70% of those kids. And that's it. Time for questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Can you join us at the table?
Yep.
Yeah, right there. Board of Education members, do you have any questions for Ms. Badami?
Good job, as usual, really.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So, let's see, middle school teams. If we had a field hockey team, okay? Are there enough schools in Middlesex County that have 2 teams so we play enough games? I mean, do we have anyone to play?
Yes.
We do.
So how it works is that there's big schools and small schools. Mm-hmm. Okay? So the big school teams, right now, our middle school is in a division with South Brunswick, North Brunswick, East Brunswick. Okay? And then the small school teams are like Carteret and, the small schools. Mm-hmm. Okay? So even with field hockey, that the amount of field hockey teams we have. So right now, field hockey is squeezing in just enough games, because there's so many field hockey teams, just not quite enough to branch off to 2 full divisions. But and again, these are all statistics before this year of COVID, okay? But going into last year, Piscataway, South Brunswick, East Brunswick, they were all getting second middle school teams as well. So then that would help field hockey. Soccer, basketball, they're already there with who we could play. So our B team would play all the small schools, and our first team would play all the large schools. With field hockey, there's now enough second teams and small schools that it would break apart to have an even schedule for both.
Okay. So when we talk about the B team, And then maybe I missed it. Do we have a quote-unquote head coach on the B team? Are we paying the head coach salary for the B team?
No, we're paying an assistant coach salary. So how it works is it would work just like a varsity and a JV team. So currently, the high school rating is a varsity head coach. Then you have an assistant coach, for JV, an assistant coach for freshmen, and then an assistant coach for the middle school team. They all get paid the same amount. So technically, you would be calling it a head coach for middle school. And then however we figure out salaries, I think it's 70% of the head coach salary is the is the assistant coach. So that's what we would do. So that's how I figured out, Aaron and I went back and forth with, that's how much a middle school second team coach would be paid. It'd be like being paid as an assistant middle school coach, just like how it's an assistant high school coach for a JV team.
Gotcha. And so, and did you figure transportation and bus driver salaries into that second team? Is that in there, or is it so minuscule? I mean, I guess it's not that many.
Yeah, it's not that much, and again, without these regulations, it doesn't cost out too much. I never figure out the transportation for any of athletics. I talk to Lori, and she does that. So, but it wouldn't be that much different to fuel or fund. It's only. I think we add like 5 home games. 5 away games, 5 home games. They're only a 10-game schedule.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Again, good job, really.
Thanks.
Any more questions?
I'm just going to make a comment. Great job as usual. Just as, forget as a board member, as someone who lived in town for a long time, you're the best AD we ever had. You really do an excellent job. And everything I've seen the last couple of years from the rotations with uniforms, and it's so organized. And really this year, more than any year, athletics is always important for our students, but this year I think it's been the one thing that has given them some normalcy and some desire to get up and go to, go to their games. I know for my kid it was huge, and really with all the restrictions, and I'm amazed at how well our teams did with not transmitting the virus and playing their football team, playing all their games and not missing it when other schools did. So really bravo to you for that. And I just want to say, I hope everyone in the public knows too, usually you have a fall, spring, winter and spring season. This year we have, the 1A, the 1B, the 1C. So I know some of the seasons are overlapping. So just great job. I know it's a harder job than usual this year. But I did want to ask, I know the co-op seems like it's working good with field hockey. Is the co-op dead with football and wrestling? I know that originally they were talking about that.
To explain quickly how that works, it was able to get approved in field hockey because there is a minor clause that they just put in this year. They didn't have it in past years because they never had it open to group 4 or 5 schools. They didn't have it open to large schools, so they didn't need this clause. But when we attempted to co-op with South Amboy, that clause kind of hindered us. It didn't hinder South Amboy, but it wound up hindering them. So what the clause said is that both schools must show a need for the co-op. And that wasn't in there when we were first initiating this because we don't have a need in football, we don't have a need in wrestling. However, it would be a great co-op and it would be wonderful for South Amboy. I don't like how it's written, and I love everything that the NJSAA does, but I told them I don't like how this one's written.
Sure.
I really think that having a co-op, you can't just co-op with anyone. It would be very hard for South Amboy to co-op with anyone else except us because there's many more platforms that we can go into that. But with field hockey, we had a need. We didn't have a freshman program, and with the middle school, we were slowly building the numbers, but at the time of the co-op, we didn't have the numbers. So that's why we got granted the co-op for field hockey, but we already had enough numbers in football and wrestling for us that's why they denied it. South Amboy would have to find another school who has just as much of a need.
Okay. And last question, I know I guess the winter, the wrestling season and the spring sports and may overlap by a week or two.
Yeah.
That won't affect those kids. They'll be able to play both sports.
They'll be able to play both sports, but they will not be able to play both sports at the same time. So at some point, they're going to have to finish out a season or stop the season to start another season.
Okay.
Now, the good thing is that even like, football is the easiest one to use. If you have a great football team, in the past few years, it would go all the way into December, and that's when basketball would be starting. So the 6 practice rule doesn't count for them. As long as they're in a sport and they don't have
Okay.
a 3-day hiatus, they could play a contest the very next day. So with
Right.
wrestling, if they wrestle out all the way till, I'll just give an easy date, these aren't the correct dates, like
Right.
April 15th, and we have a competition on April 16th for baseball, they can play that competition right away,
Got it.
okay? But they can't practice with the baseball team
Until I did.
at all
Okay,
until then.
thanks.
No problem.
Great job.
Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question. I've noticed on different sport teams, they have like different levels of fundraising. So not everyone is actually not every team does the same amount of fundraising. Like, for example, the track team, I think like 2 years ago, raised like $5,000 in profit by doing Top Golf. So I think that it may be helpful if somebody put together like a little cheat sheet of how to fundraise and what teams have, successfully fundraised. Because right now you got Chipotle, all these restaurants, everybody's eating out, ordering out, bringing it home. You can actually make money from those purchases. So I think that we really should focus more on teaching our teams how to do better fundraising equally, okay? Not just one, like the band. They're always collecting clothes and all that. So I think it might be a good idea to put together a little booklet for each team to show them how to successfully fundraise to raise some of these funds that are being cut.
Well, I'm going to add to that, and Erin could back me up with this. All of this is not fundraisable. This is what we provide. So teams cannot fundraise for uniforms. They cannot fundraise for things that school supply. They can only fundraise for the above and beyond. They could buy a uniform, but it has to be a tertiary uniform. The school has to provide them a set of uniforms. So there's certain booster club and fundraising rules that they can only fundraise for a certain amount of things, and the stuff that they fundraise has nothing to do with my budget, nor can it impact it. Correct, Erin?
We might want to look at doing something a little differently if we have this many cuts, to allow more fundraising for the things that we're eliminating.
And I will just add, too, that this is the preliminary process that we go through that some people may not be aware of. We routinely do this. We cut. But then once we receive our state aid figures, hopefully they will be higher, and for the past several years they have been higher because they're trying to catch us up with equalization aid. We put monies back into it. But we had to cut a total of $15.6 million. $6 million of that was the new bus compound, but $10.8 million of it was things that other people budgeted for. So we do have to cut a lot, and we cut $10.8 million. But we do find a way of getting certain things back in there. And Ms. Badami does a great job of advocating for her department, particularly the needs that she has in order to accomplish some of the goals that she has set forth. But again, this is what our job is. Our job is to listen and to determine what it is that we feel if we are able to put things back, what it is that we should put back. But that's a good suggestion with regard to the fundraising. I do know that that is something that parents talk a great deal about, Ms. Babone. Any other questions? I do have a question. You mentioned several times in your presentation stinky teams. Did you mean the Miami Dolphins or the New York Jets?
Oh, hey now. That's Tampa Bay, I think, is in the playing right now.
I don't speak of that team nor the quarterback. Thank you, Ms. Badami, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation is by Dr. Shetty. I thought you were going to stay there. You're going to go for a walk? Okay. She's going to go for a walk to the podium. And as soon as she gets there, she's going to begin the curriculum and instruction budget. Coming? Okay. Yeah, the handheld works too, Dr. Shetty, if you'd like to use that one. Is it on there? now? Yeah? Just to click up? Andrew, you want help?
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to what I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the curriculum and instruction budget, some of the things we were able to accomplish this current year, and we're still working on them. Especially, thank you for the support that the board has given us in supporting our budget and so many of the new initiatives that we've undertaken in recent years. So, okay, so some of our goals and the budget highlights for the current school year. The first thing, our first goal was to improve students' overall literacy skills. So this current year, we were able to purchase Fontes and Pinnell classroom materials for 4th grade and the benchmark assessment system for grades kindergarten through 5. We purchased new novels, vocabulary books, and writing materials for grades 6 through 8. And we revised a number of our curriculum guides. In order to increase the number of students meeting expectations on math assessments, we were able to add 2 additional academic support math teachers in the elementary schools. Each teacher travels between 2 of the elementary schools to deliver supplemental instruction for our students. We have new math textbooks in grades 6 and 7. We continue with ongoing professional development. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, Dr. Mailu is going to be coming in and working with the 4th and 5th grade math teachers. And again, more revisions of our curriculum. Our third goal was to improve college and career readiness. We're very pleased that we were able to inaugurate our STEM Academy in September. And in addition, we had some new courses this year, including Intro to Tomorrow's Teachers, our business capstone, Essentials of Marketing 2, and Managerial Accounting. Our fourth goal was to increase the academic achievement of English language learners. And this year we were able to add an additional ELL teacher. And we are participating in ongoing PSYOP training for preschool through grade 12 teachers. And these are techniques that help the teachers provide support for ELL students in their classrooms. And it's actually part of the bilingual waiver we have from the state, so that if we have PSYOP trained teachers, we do not have to offer a bilingual program.
Dr. Shetty, can you explain what PSYOP is?
Okay, PSYOP is Structured Instructional Operational Protocol, and it helps the teachers. It gives them different techniques and ways that they can work with their ELL students in the regular classroom. So in order to obtain a bilingual waiver from the state, all of our students who their native language, the ELL students whose native language is either Spanish or Arabic, must either be in a PSYOP trained teacher's class for at least one period every day, in addition to their ELL class. So it's really helpful to have more teachers trained in this so that they can support them in every subject area. We have kindergarten through 12th grade, we have English teachers, we actually have phys ed teachers, Spanish teachers. We have from every curricular area who are trained in this, and every grade level. And our fifth goal for this year was to provide ongoing and sustained professional development. Very proud of the Summer Learning Series, which Mrs. Oberg worked very hard on, where we offered teachers on some professional development opportunities over the summer, and they could pick courses, and we were actually, through our Title II grant, able to reimburse the teachers for participating in these lessons. And everything was tied to either distance learning or harmony and equity, which are our focuses for this school year. Thirsty Thursdays. The Professional Development Department, almost every Thursday, has provided a WebEx professional development for an hour that the teachers sign up for. They've been very popular on a variety of topics. We've purchased a number of distance and hybrid learning resources, and actually this year our professional learning communities had the option of participating in a book club, and the focus could either be on distance learning or equity and harmony, and we were able to purchase books for the teachers for both of those book clubs. And thank you again to the board for supporting those efforts. Okay, so some of our goals for next school year. We want to prepare our students for college and career. We want to provide our students with 21st century learning opportunities, address student individual needs and student learning loss due to the pandemic. We want to provide all the students with research-based curriculum, instruction, and assessment, use technology as a tool to enhance student learning, and to provide our staff members with ongoing and sustained professional development. So, along those lines, our district textbook and instructional supplies, once we went through the budget cuts, and the cuts were fairly deep in these areas, unfortunately, our proposed budget includes $779,390. Included in this are new biology, French, and history textbooks for the high school, some textbooks and supplies for our new AP Computer Science Principles course we will be offering next school year, and our Introduction to Engineering course. New Science and Social Studies textbooks for the middle school, digital licenses for existing textbooks, Fontes and Pinnell for grade 5, and shared reading for kindergarten through 5th grade. Fontes and Pinnell for grade 5 was originally in last year's, in the budget for this current school year, but we found it necessary to cut that, and we were only able to purchase it for grade 4, so we absolutely need that next year for grade 5, because those students will have been using Fontes and Pinnell Classroom for the last several years. So in order to finish that continuum, we absolutely need to purchase that. Digital licenses. I think, if anything, during the current distance learning and hybrid learning, we've learned how important digital licenses are. We have a great many digital licenses for our textbooks. However, many of them are expiring. And in addition, some of them are no longer available through the publishers. So we do need to budget for new textbooks and digital licenses. And the model that we're pursuing at this point is, for the middle school and high school with our textbooks, we're looking to purchase classroom sets of the books themselves, and then digital licenses for every student. So the students will have an actual textbook to use when they're present in class, but when they're home, they will have the digital versions available. Now, we had to make large cuts in this area, so the ideal model is when you purchase a new textbook to purchase a 6-year digital license. It's the most cost-effective way to do it. But with the cuts that have been made up to this point, it looks as though we will have to, in many cases, go with a 1-year digital license and then look to renew it again the following year. The cost is considerably more, however, to do it that way in the long run. But if that's what we have to do, that's how we'll get around that. You know, for example, a digital license for 1 year might be $40 per student. That same license for 6 years is about $120 per student. So you can see the cost difference, and you can also get a 3-year license. So one of the things that we're looking to do if some of the funds are not restored to these lines would be to, for now, get the shorter term on the digital licenses. Another item that we've budgeted for are replacement textbooks and supplies. Many of our materials have been sent home with the students, for the students to use at home. And we're not sure how many we're actually going to get back and how many may need replacement moving forward. So these items were cut over $200,000 total.
Why do you look at me when you say that?
I'm not looking at you. We will make do. We will figure out a way to do.
Mrs. Bloom, do you catch the body language?
Okay, academic support. Our student learning needs are going to be greater than ever for next school year. Past several years, we have budgeted $30,000 for summer school, and we continue to budget that same amount. We are pursuing some grant opportunities that might help fund some of that, but we do anticipate that we may have an increased enrollment. Now, we can charge tuition to our students for summer school, so that does offset some of the costs of the summer school program. And up until this year, we've only offered it at the middle school, but I think we may need to look into offering it at the high school level too. Learning academies, our learning academies, which are either before or after school, have been very successful over the past several years. Dr. Labby's done a great job of supporting those, and so we are keeping
Damage control.
We do anticipate that we may need some additional support for our students for next school year. However, we do, whenever we can, we do use grant money for those items. Okay, and the last item I'll talk about right now is professional development. You can see through these numbers, for this current school year, we've budgeted $35,000. For next school year, we're budgeting $30,000. However, we have not spent that much. You know, we've spent $25,000, $26,000 because we've been very fortunate that we have a lot of Title II funds, which pays for much of our professional development. And we've been increasing that through the years, the amount of professional development with the Sayreville University, but we've been able to really offset a lot of those costs through our Title II grant. And the items here covers some of the presenters for Sayreville University, Staff Development Day presenters, out-of-district workshops and conferences. Our teachers are allowed to go to 2 out-of-district workshops per school year, and ongoing sustained in-district professional development where we bring providers in, as we're having tomorrow, Dr. Milo from Rowan University, who's worked over the past several years with some of our math teachers. So that's all I have. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Shetty. Any questions for Dr. Shetty?
You know what my question's going to be, Marilyn, right?
Where's that steam?
Where's the art?
Where is that
Where's the
aid?
art money?
Where is that steam? Yes. Are we looking to try and move that for 2022, if we can, or?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we would love to have done something for this upcoming September, but things are in such a crazy state. But yes,
I
now,
get it, I get
now there's a strong interest in an art academy here at the high school, so we do plan. That will most definitely be our next one.
Okay.
I promise you, Lucy.
You know I'll keep asking.
I know, and I'll keep
You'll keep
on.
telling me it's coming.
Yeah.
More questions?
I don't know if it's a question for you, Marilyn, or if it's for Donna. So when we talk about preparedness post-high school, and we've talked about this for years here, right now, would that be for Marilyn or Donna? What do you think?
In terms of
Well-
preparing kids for college and some of the activities that Ms. Cola facilitates and
Yeah,
and
college in
organizes,
particular.
that would be under Mr. Rubino's high school budget, I believe.
Right.
But I thought we were going to start targeting students in middle school to see what students may not be college bound or may not want to go to college, and we kind of direct them into the trades, so to speak. And again, this is just banter. We've been talking about it. We never really.
Well, we talked about a course at the middle school for kids to identify career outcomes.
Right, and we have in 8th grade, required course is 21st century skills. And so.
And we
part
utilize
of-
the data from that not only, to help kids determine whether they would like to go to a technical school, a vocational technical school, or to identify what learning academy
Right.
might be a good fit for them.
Right, and part of that course, there is a career inventory where the students explore a little bit about different careers and so on. That's the basis of that particular course.
And when you say that's a quarter, is that like an elective for one semester?
It's a quarterly elective, I believe.
Yes, it's a quarterly elective. It's required for 8th grade students. It's 21st century skills and careers, or careers and skills.
Okay.
So they can help.
That's got to be what, last year did we start that?
2 years ago, I believe.
2 years ago.
How is it, how's the feedback? I mean, has anybody gone into VOTEC as a result of it, or decided to be,
I think we have still the same number of kids going into the vocational technical school, correct?
Right.
About the same.
okay,
But I think it has helped with the recruiting for our learning academies.
it has.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it will continue to help because it's so important for our kids to begin to think about what it is that they would like to do and like to learn by the time they enter high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any more questions, Dr. Shediak? I have a rather serious one, Dr. Shediak.
okay.
You mentioned before the success we've had with Thirsty Thursdays, I think you said they were.
Thirsty Thursdays, yes.
About how long are these? About an hour?
Yes,
Are people generally pleased with them?
yes, they are. The feedback's really been positive. They run from 3:30 to 4:30.
So, in essence, would you say that these Thirsty Thursdays are happy hours?
They could be considered so. Absolutely.
I'm done questioning.
Okay, thank you.
Take this microphone, will you please?
Thank you, Marilyn.
Great job, Dr. Shediak.
Thank you.
Next person, Mr. Rubino from the high school.
Oh, we're going in reverse. Yeah. Good.
We're going to take a 10-minute break while they walk up here.
High school, high school, high school.
And Mr. Salem, Ms. Rowski, and Ms. Romero, there are seats right there for you guys to sit at if you'd like. And then Mr. Rubino can join you when he's done his presentation. And I think we have 2 mics there, and we can bring the handheld over for anybody that needs one. Mrs. Bloom, I thought that was a good question about the Thirsty Thursday.
I'm with you, yeah. I'm always up for happy hour.
Okay, Mr. Rubino.
All right, can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
All right, great.
There's a
Thank you
hand.
very much for having me, everybody. Before we start, I just want to say again, thanks for having us here tonight and listening to me about our goals for next year and what we budgeted for. So I'd like to start off by just saying that we are lucky enough that we did not have any deep budget cuts at the high school. So I want to thank you very much for that. And that's where I want to start off with the highlights from the 2019-2020 school year from our goals, but not only that, but just some great highlights from the high school in general. One of the things that's really dear to our heart that happened last year is that we were able to re-envision the traditional graduation ceremony with the help of the administration, not only at the high school, my vice principals, but also the upper administration in the board office. And I can't thank them enough. I can't thank Dr. Labby enough for his help, his leadership with that. And it was absolutely amazing. I also want to thank the board members that were all a part of that, because it really was memorable for each one of our students. We delivered over 400 diplomas to individual student homes. We boarded buses and we went out there and we gave our students the best ceremony we possibly could, and it was memorable. I have to say that's probably one of the most memorable days in my career, and I think I could speak to my administration as well, that's definitely something we'll remember forever. So I want to thank everyone for that as well. Also, in collaboration with our FBLA students and school store committee, we now have an extensive business plan for our new Sayreville War Memorial High School store. Last year, I asked the board for monies to be able to be approved through my culture and climate account for that store, and I just want to thank you again for that. The store is on track. We wanted to open it last spring. We weren't able to with the pandemic, obviously, but this spring we're hoping for a grand opening. The orders are in for different types of products for that store, and we're very, very excited for that. So I want to thank you for approving that last year for the monies we're going to use. So our goal is that grand opening this spring, and I really hope that comes to fruition. We're excited about that. Also, the creation and implementation of the STEM Academy and Career and Technical Education Program. We now have 25 students enrolled in that academy. So we're very, very happy. We want more. We want to increase that. But we're starting small and we're building upon that. Luckily, with the help of Mrs. Maharana, she's done an amazing job with Carolyn O'Connor with the STEM Academy. We now have 25 students total enrollment. We've established a computer honor society, which we're really excited about as well. In the spring will be the inductions. We recently received a grant from the Technical Student Association to sponsor a membership for 10 students and 1 advisor. So we're very excited about that also from the Technical Student Association. We also this year, end of last year, we got a commendation letter from the Middle States Commission on Higher Education for elementary and for high schools across New Jersey. We're very excited that we were reaccredited. That's definitely a prestige honor for the high school, where we had to go through a lot of rigorous points by that commission, and really it's a self-study to go through, and we're very excited about that as well. Last year was our first freshman class tip-off. Our administration came up with a way that we would have our 8th grade students really get a taste of what high school is like in the high school experience. It was absolutely awesome. They attended our high school club and activity fair and attended one of our varsity basketball games during the winter months. We were not able to have a traditional freshman orientation this year, and this really was their freshman orientation. So we're very, very happy that we were able to have that last year before the pandemic. We weren't able to have large groups of students together, so it was really great. Also, the creation of the Voices of the World Club. Our Voices of the World Club was just recently approved by the board. We're very, very excited about that as well. It embraces really the culture of diversity, and I spoke about this before at the last board meeting a couple months ago, that it's embracing the culture of diversity at Sayreville War Memorial High School. It gives students a voice, and we're also something that we're very happy that we're able to start to the 2019 to 2020. So I want to thank you for that. Our goals for the 2020-2021 school year was to continue to enhance our intelligence pertaining to potential threats to the school and our students and staff. Luckily, we have an amazing technology director, Eric Lockmalloy, that has, assistant superintendent and, head of our technology. And he's just been great with the way in which we've been able to use not only our website for our tips. We have anonymous tips to that. We have not only that, but we were able to see different types of threats through social media that comes to our emails, and we really want to delve deeper in that this year. So we're going to continue that goal. We didn't completely accomplish it from last year, but that's something we want to delve into really deep this year with the software that we have. So I want to thank Eric for that and his help on that piece. We also want to expand the computer science track within the STEM Academy. And we have the STEM Academy, but we want to increase our enrollment for the computer science track, because computer science is a career that's up and coming, and a lot of students in our high school are excited about that and are going into those type of fields. So by June 30th, 2021, we're looking for student enrollment to increase by 50%. That's another one of our goals. Also, the creation of our Inclusion, Diversity, Equality, and Awareness Council. That's something that we're going to ask to be approved. The IDEA Council mission is to work with staff and students to promote a positive school culture of equality, equity, and inclusion. We recently had a training called the Day of Dialogue through Middlesex County, and it was an unbelievable experience for our staff and students, where they were trained in safe spaces how to speak about, equality, equity, and inclusion, having those tough conversations, and it was really, really amazing to be a part of with our students. I was able to be on that virtual conference as well. So we are going to bring that back to our school and have a council where our students have a voice, where they're able to speak to our staff members and have professional development, being able to do different types of things like that for our staff and for our students. So that's another highlight and goal for the 2020-2021. In terms of resources needed for our school improvement, and in terms of the budget, like I said, we're lucky that we did not have any cuts at the high school, but we are going to be continuing our Student of the Month creation and implementation. We took a little bit of a step back because of the pandemic, and because we want to celebrate those students and make sure that we're doing it in person and having a celebration for them. We are going to continue with that goal, and we want to purchase awards to recognize and celebrate those students across all grade levels. We would also like to promote the positive climate and culture throughout Sayreville High School. With the pandemic, and I know that's a hot topic and we're all talking about it, but when we get back to some type of normalcy, we're going to have to identify the social emotional needs of students and staff. This is really, really important to me and my staff, because we know that there's a lot of work to be done in that area. And I'm not just trying to say the buzzword social emotional learning. It's meaningful. It's a way in which our students feel safe in the environment that they learn, and that we have professional development for our staff, incorporate some type of social emotional exercises within the school day. That's a huge goal for us. It's kind of a loaded goal. It might be multi-year, but when we do get back to more days at school and we have more students attending every day, this is something that we're going to need to go through and have a needs assessment to make sure that we know where the gaps are, and then make sure that we are going to close those gaps. And that's going to be for students and staff, and there's going to be a lot of professional development but I was going to ask the board to approve through my culture and climate account and use monies through that account, because that's something that we feel is going to be integral moving forward. We also would like to increase communication among students and staff. We recently got multiple monitors throughout the school. I'm going to ask for 4 more within my budget. And that's something that's just going to be overwhelmingly positive, not only for the school culture, but really to give students a message from our TV program, who's headed by Nick Taylor on the Bombcast. We're looking forward to having those flat panels. We just got them installed recently. The electric is being worked on right now, and we're excited to get those up and running for this school year and purchase 4 more. With that, that's my presentation for the budget. I appreciate everyone's time, and I'll go to my seat for more questions.
That's absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Rubino. There's a
Thank you.
handheld over there if you'd like to grab it. I know that Mr. Salem, there's the microphone over there. Oh, Mr. Rubino gets to be there.
I just have one question.
Sure.
So I think we spoke about this in December a little bit, about the increase in teen suicides and the mental health aspect of what these kids are going through, and parents as well, perhaps. So I'm presuming when you, where am I here? Where did I find you? Oh, sorry. Let me see. There it is. So the positive climate and culture, I guess
Yes.
that's what you're speaking about at this point? Okay, so let me ask you a question in your professional opinion, and I always state that, again, the obvious, I'm not an educator, so is this something that you think kids will be like, okay, you know what, as things get back, we're going to get back to normal, kids will be like, okay, and sort of get back into their routine, or do you think this is something that, look, they were hit hard, and it's not going to be as easy to recover for them. They may have long-term disabilities or issues as a result of what's going on. It may not be, that's a kind of a psychological question, I guess, but
Yeah, and
what's your education?
I understand what you're trying to say, and I think it's going to take time for us. Like I said in my presentation, we're going to have to do a needs assessment of where we're at with our students in terms of self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and most definitely social awareness. Those are all things that we're going to have to do a needs assessment on. And I know that I could speak for my team here that we don't know where we're going to be when students do come back to that normal schedule. That's something that we're really going to have to delve into and research. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, but just to be clear, we're most definitely going to be on top of it, and something that we are going to work together on.
Thank you. Is it, Dr. Labby, is this something that we're going to do district-wide? In other words, like have a teacher, like a checklist for teachers to say, you know what, this is something we need to look out for, these X amount of items, and if some kids are falling in that category, maybe we need to alert somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have certain measures just like that. I mean, our teachers are amazing at identifying kids that are in distress. They do a wonderful job of focusing in on kids, seeing if the behavior of our students is changed slightly. Either they're a little bit withdrawn, either they're a little bit too active, and they do a nice job of not only identifying that, but reporting that as soon as possible to the parents, school counselors, and administrators.
Great. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
And I'll just, on top of what Anthony said, that's what I wanted to comment on too. And, you know, I worry a lot for our kids. And I know you guys have been doing a great job already. I know even my son going to school, it's been such a big deal, even though it's only 2 days. It's really been, you know, such a positive thing for him. And I know a lot of the other kids that I talked to have gone. And, but, you know, it's so funny how fast things change. And last year we were so worried about the seniors missing the end. And really it's been the kids who were seniors this year who missed all that, and now all of this on top of it, you know, which I don't think any of us were thinking of at the time would go this far. But I think your work's going to be cut out for you, but I think, you know, you guys do a great job in that building and keeping a positive attitude. So looking forward to that day, whenever it comes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck. We need you guys.
Any other questions? I do have a question too. I know Ms. Rowski does this scheduling. I know that we weren't able to use it this year, but we have budgeted in to continue with the math lab and language arts lab during lunchtime.
Yes.
I just wanted to make you talk.
Okay. How are you?
I worked hard getting that microphone over there.
No, it's
Darn it,
already
you're
built
gonna
into
use
the
it.
schedule. We'll use it. It's built into the schedule. We'll implement that next year. Or as soon as the kids are back.
Excellent.
Whenever you want it, I can start.
Thank you. I'm trying to think of a question for Mr. Salem, too, and Mr. Romero as well.
We're here if you need us.
Any other questions for our incredible high school team? And wouldn't you guys agree that those would be happy hours?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Mike answered that one.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
God.
I don't know who's got a lot of pages here. Middle school.
Yeah, the middle school.
Right.
I get paid extra for this.
True. True. You got this, or you want to? Can you do it? Thanks. Just follow along. I'll see what I can do. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I think everybody can hear me. Good evening, and first I'd like to introduce my team. It's Greg Jagu, Vice Principal, Sylvia Rago, my right-hand scheduling person, and a wonderful, wonderful addition last year to our team. As always, I would like to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Labby, Dr. Shetty, Mr. Glock-Malloy for their amazing support each year. But at the same time, I'd like to thank our outstanding directors, Mr. Nasser, and a number of our others, as well as our amazing supervisors for all of their support. A lot of people don't understand what we do on a daily basis, and we speak to them 24/7 just about, and they're amazing people, and they do a lot of great work. So first, let's start with 1920, some goals and highlights. The first goal was to increase the number of students who are meeting expectations in grade 6 in mathematics, evidenced by 44 or more of the total who were previously approaching expectations in 2019, meeting those expectations in 2020 Park Math 6 assessment. As everybody knows, the NJSLA did not take place, so due to the pandemic, we don't have any results. But Mala Maharana, our supervisor of mathematics, and our team here at the middle school frequently have conversations in regards to specifically grade 6. As mentioned earlier, the textbooks for grade 6 and 7 to support those students, but specifically grade 6 because it's a transitional year for those students coming out of the UES. So on an annual basis, we consistently speak about our kids as well as their achievements. The second goal is about chronic absenteeism and to decrease the number of chronic absentee students by developing and implementing classroom and building-based strategies and activities integrated where applicable with IRNS and RTI. We were doing really well. Our number from the previous year, I believe, was 10.1 or 10.6, along those lines. And through our analytics and encores, through March 6th of last year, we were 8.63%, which was under our number of 10% that we were trying to reach. So we were on a good plane. We had a lot of advertising in the building, a lot of blasts to our teachers, as well as our parents in regards to good attendance and what that means. And things were going really well. So I was hoping that we could finish that year and see what the final number would have been with the entire campaign. But in the end, we got short a little bit. I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Some highlights. We continue to work on differentiation in the classroom throughout the school and emphasize that as a school-wide initiative. We also work through engaging lessons. We took an approach for in the classroom of stations and or centers. We wanted to infuse that into all of our classrooms, which is going very well. We also introduced choice electives for all of our students last year. That the students got to choose one of their 4 electives. 3 were mandatory, 1 was a choice. We also created some grade 6 and special education teams to make sure that we were concentrating on that transition year again as well. We also introduced the Sayreville Middle School instructional coach, Ms. Rose Griggs, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Moving on, we also continued to sustain the Medal of Honor Character Education program. We're working on that school-wide. It started out in the Social Studies department. We continue to implement and sustain the school climate team, which was a really great, nice addition to our school, where our students would use their voice to foster change throughout our school. It still is sustained at the moment and doing really well. Continue to improve school climate and facilities through positive interactions with our school community. And listed there are chronic absentee campaigns, school security, school announcement and display monitors, implementation of the student council executive boards, student-created clubs, inception of the National Junior Honor Society, the Principal Honor Roll, and so on. So, moving forward, let me see here, to 2021. Our first goal was by June 30th, 2021, 17 to 23 students will move from the bubble level to the meeting or approaching level as evident from Form C grade of our grade 6 assessment scores in mathematics. And then second, we decided to continue the chronic absenteeism for students. Currently, our analytics on course is at 5.2%. With the advent of the pandemic, I think that's helping our attendance a little bit in the virtual end of it. And we currently have approximately 72 chronic absent students, which before we started our campaign the year before was, I believe, 104. So again, taking a lighter approach this year because of the pandemic, but we're still working on making strides in chronic absenteeism. And then we can move on to some other odds and ends. Since we started 2 years ago, we've been trying to create educational spaces in the instructional end, which contribute to engaging and motivating instructional strategies. So on top of differentiated learning centers and stations, we've been purchasing equipment and furniture that our teachers can use in the classroom that suit itself towards differentiation. For example, the half-round whiteboard tables that could be used to write on and draw on in the classroom. We're trying to outfit most of our mathematics classrooms with those, excuse me, and a few others. We're also going to professional development with grade level teams, meetings, again, furniture and instructional supplies. We're trying to continue to sustain engagement through our instructional coach, which I'll give you a few things that she's doing momentarily. Continue to implement instructional methods which focus on differentiated instruction, and then continue with our character education program, and then work on our chronic absenteeism. Just to go back to the instructional coach, Ms. Rose Griggs, she does a number of things for us, such as she handles our mentor program at the school. She does one-on-ones with teachers in terms of instructional strategies. She actually today, I believe it was RTI Day to Day, where she works with our RTI team and the teachers to input information into the system for our students. She works on staff culture often. Fridays are Lucky Duck Fridays, just a climate and culture boost at the end of each week. She does many of our bulletin boards in the school, but most importantly, I like that she does something called the Connecting with the Coach. For example, one of our most recent virtual meetings was with Doreen Consimano, our student assistance counselor, where they worked with staff members in regards to SEL, social emotional learning, as well as curricular topics. So she's doing a lot with us at the school. Sorry, I want to move forward. All right, additionally, on 2021, goals, resources, school improvement, the budget from last year supported our staff in terms of an amazing work and wellness area for our staff members. If anybody's been by the school, the maintenance and custodial staffs helped us with amazing work. In our first room, when you walk into the school C1, with the support of Ms. Rego and the scheduling process, we're able to take that room, which was a classroom, and create a nice work area for the teachers in which there's bulletin boards, copiers, very nice couch and love seat set with the Bomber logo, as well as tables, refrigerator, and so on and so forth. It's really nice, something that they've needed for a long time. We've also dedicated something that the staff used to call the fishbowl, which is going to be now the professional development room and conference room in the media center, which is directly to the right. We've outfitted it with a great number of items in terms of furniture to support teachers be able to work in there and professional development, as well as having math and all different content area meetings, as well as bringing people in such as Dr. Milo. So we have a dedicated professional development now area that we've worked on. It's painted, everything's installed, and it looks great. We just have to get our media center back together, but we'll get there soon enough. With that said, the media center floor was done and recently was just painted. And if you haven't been in yet, it's absolutely outstanding. And we do have to thank the Board of Education and everybody that took part in working on that, including Mr. Colemanberger's staff members, because it's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I also would like to thank the board for an abundance of new furniture that we're able to outfit those rooms with, and I'll get more into that in a few minutes. Okay, so we're going to continue to work on our classrooms for furniture and whiteboards and technology to again support our differentiation initiative. We're going to update faculty bathrooms, which are continuing happening now, which are actually fantastic. The main office bathrooms are in the 21-22 budget list, as well as we would like to include a audiovisual equipment for large presentations, school events, pep rallies, etc., in our gymnasium. We did a really nice job with the wall padding, the gray wall padding with the Bomber logo upstairs in the gym, as well as the gymnasium floor the year before, and it absolutely looks awesome. We're also going to utilize communication vehicles. As Mr. Rubino mentioned, we have 8 display units up on walls now for announcements, club meetings, and so on and so forth. We're just waiting to get the electric to those, and then we're going to be able to work through on that. I did ask for, I think it's 2 more for the building for next year. So that's another piece to help build our culture and our climate. And finally, we have a quick note there, which I've worked with Mr. Glock-Malloy on in regards to PA systems in and about the school. 21-22, very exciting time at the middle school. I'm very excited. We've been doing a lot of work this year for next. So we're going to start off with, we're going to continue to promote student engagement, specifically, obviously, in our instruction area and differentiation. We were making great strides while the kids were in school until the pandemic hit. and we ended up going a little bit virtual. But we can all attest that our teachers are absolutely amazing in what they're offering our kids right now virtually. It's amazing what they've created in a short amount of time, and we're very thankful that they're working forward and just coming up with amazing lessons. We're going to continue with that instructional methods for centers and stations. As mentioned, science and social studies textbooks, as Dr. Shetty mentioned earlier, in regards to the digital age. Something that we're very excited about, that we've worked with Mr. Nasser, Dr. DeFina, Ms. Rago, Mr. Jagu, is the Unified Elective Program for our MD population. So real short, our MD population will be scheduled into specific electives next year with a regular education teacher in their area, as well as paraprofessionals if needed, as well as our special education member that is assigned to those students. And just one piece, I do have the arrangement with me. My apologies. So from 6th to 7th to 8th grade, the students are going to have 4 electives that are placed into their schedule, which will be considered unified art, okay, where they're going to have different levels from 6th to 7th to 8th grade. Unified theater, unified tech, and the most exciting one that we're working on at the moment is unified design lab. So back to furniture, the Media Center was outfitted with makerspace furniture, and we were brainstorming one day with Dr. DeFina, and we ended up with Unified Design Lab, which in the vision of things, we would like to go down the road STEM, science or math. We haven't decided yet. And it's very exciting. We're going to be making and creating new curriculum in that area and doing some revisions elsewhere. But with the work of an amazing team, we're going to be able to offer that next year without any hiccups in the schedule. So we're very excited to see that. More to come on that as we get closer. But that was one of the main ideas that came out for 21-22 with the help of some great people. Moving on, this year part of something that we wanted to do at the middle school, which we started working on last year, was implementing a social and emotional learning curriculum, which we're working on now. We've had a number of meetings. The middle school actually does a lot of SEL on its own, but it's not broken down into a curriculum. So we have a team of 20 staff members that are working to create that curriculum, to work with Dr. Shetty on. And we're into our 3rd meeting coming up on February 9th. So more to come with that, which is something that Mr. Esposito was talking about earlier in regards to our kids. And I just want to mention that it is a pretty tough time at the moment, and we have some amazing people that handle situations often, from good to bad to indifferent, and ultimately the people, as Dr. Labby said earlier as well, we do a great job working through each one of our kids that need it. We do feel that there's going to be some hurdles to get over if we get back to some normalcy. But we're trying to identify those now. We just had a meeting recently, yesterday? Today? It was today. It was this morning. I'm sorry. This morning that we were trying to identify some students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that are going to need our help extremely, not just academic, but social emotionally. So we're going to try to work on that. Computer science is something that we just recently met with the high school team with, and Ms. Mahanarana. I wanted to address a little bit of your conversations before about working on our students before they get to the high school. It's starting to come into play now with administration and the supervisors that we're trying to offer our kids more of experiences before they get to the high school so they can feel their way and what interests them. So when computer science came along, we were really interested about how we're going to do that. We already have a little bit of computer science in 8th grade, but we were looking at possibly for the school year 2022 to possibly do something else to get their interests into computer science. So we'll see what we can come up with, but those discussions are starting now for not next year, but the year after, I'm sorry. So I mentioned Makerspace before. That's work in progress at the moment. Just something else I wanted to add to that is that we also envision in the science and math department that Makerspace during the school day could be also something that entails a science lab or a math lab. We haven't figured that out yet, but it's just something we discussed, which we're ultimately going to continue discussing to see if we can entertain some science and math in that space as well. Obviously, everybody would have to sign up for the area or plan for that area. But we're really excited. The furniture itself lends itself to a lot of different things. Moving on, I know Ms. Mahanarana did secure a 3D printer for that area, which is we're going to infuse that into that Makerspace area, which is going to be very exciting as well. And then new elective course discussions are starting up a little bit more with the vision of preparing our kids for the high school before they get to high school in terms of their interests. So those are just general discussions at the moment. And then ultimately, Rose Griggs and the instructional coach is a big part of that as well. Sorry. So our goals, resources, and school improvement haven't really changed in terms of what we want to do in terms of the climate and culture or instructional strategies. We're going to stay on that same path. As mentioned before, we have a dedicated professional development. I like the word zone because a lot of things can happen in that area. We have plenty of meetings and conferences that we can utilize in there. It will also minimally double as our in-school suspension room when needed. And then we'll move on to continue sustaining our character education program and our chronic absenteeism. So 2021-22, the last piece of that really is more facilities generated. We're going to continue working on our staff and supporting them. The D-Wing faculty lounge / work area could be a picture from 1972 if you walked in there, and I would really love to help them, and that's where furniture comes into play. So furniture, appliances, paint. Jimmy and his crew has done a great job over the summers painting the hallways and different areas of the middle school. The B8 reconstruction, I'll get back to in a minute. Gymnasium hallway. I know we were working on new windows in the middle school, but after many discussions, if you've ever been in the hallway upstairs in the gymnasium area, when the sun's blaring in, it's absolutely hot. So I advised Jimmy I was going to ask for some type of window tinting of some sort to help the temperature in that area, just to block the sun from coming in over there, because it does make its way down the hallway. So that's part of, I believe, admin supplies. Classroom needs, as always, furniture, whiteboards, and technology. Updated main office bathrooms when possible. Update existing audiovisual equipment, again, in the gymnasium, and then PA speakers outside. Back to B8. B8's the last classroom on the right in the B wing, which was the old wood shop back in our day, Eloy and John. And it still has all the wood shop equipment in it. It has the wood shop tables in it. the outstanding Marianne Gordon had her classes in there and around the building. And she did recently retire. Love her completely. And it's something that we've been thinking about, is how can we change that space whenever that time came. So that's a big number on our budget through Mr. Kollensberger. And I know it's a big number, but I'm going to ask if anything, if we're looking at making that into a all-purpose room, specifically because our PE department, and I think it's 6 or 7 PE classes per period on inclement weather days are in the hallway. Okay, upstairs in that big main area walkway, they're in the hallway not too far from classrooms. So I would love to see if we can make it an all-purpose room, the B8 area, because it's probably a good 40 by 40, 35 by 35. But we can also do a number of other things. Ms. Badami, myself, have had small conversations about adventure-based curriculum, low-level type of gym curriculum. Mr. Fisher in our building is someone that does adventure-based counseling, and he does it in the hallway with 10 to 20 students. So it could easily double as an all-purpose room. And it would be helpful. We could also have professional development there if we had to. We could have a number of other things in there. It's a nice space. But I do know that there's a lot of equipment and a lot of big heating units in there. So if anything, if possible, can we maybe do it incrementally? Because I do know it's a large number. Second on our budget items that are cut at the moment, our furniture. Again, furniture, we're trying to take care of our teachers and the items that they utilize in the classrooms, as well as their that D-wing faculty lounge. As you can see, we're working towards the people that do great things in our school. Textbook science and social studies. Out of all of them, those are the toughest ones. We can attest that during supply and textbook items that were given out to our students, giving social studies and science was kind of tough because they are a little bit beaten up, as well as some of them we can't get any longer. And then finally, our science supplies are always needed because of the different courses that we have at the middle school that the science teachers do an amazing job. And that's everything.
Very thorough. Now, Rich, your first year at the middle school, you had mentioned that you were going to start. I was always, and I think there were board members at the time that always thought fifth graders, in my opinion, they're still babies. They're real young, and the transition from fifth to sixth is a difficult one, you know. And I know you were going to work with the UES, and I guess that was pre-COVID. Do you still have plans to do so? And I don't want to put you on the spot. If you have done anything,
we've had articulation meetings, specifically in mathematics, ASI, language arts does as well. Our CST actually meets with their CST in my office normally, and we talk about the special education students coming up and their placements and what suits them the best. We've also had, just recently, I mentioned with the high school team, we had articulation meetings in computer science. So we're trying to forge both sides of the middle school.
That's great.
You know.
That's great. What about the I guess the apprehension of, oh my gosh, middle school, big, kids are older, I'm a nervous. Do you have any kids that go back down and talk to them, the fifth graders at all?
Well, not necessarily that, Mr. Esposito. It's we talk about it often, about the transition of fifth to sixth. And these past couple of years, we've actually had our teachers, and our teachers also work with the UES teachers as well, in terms of, we identified that my first year where a lot of the teachers in the middle school didn't necessarily know where the fifth grade teachers left off, say in mathematics or language arts, and we're trying to forge that relationship often. We have come a long way, but there is that transitional period which is very difficult. We were going to have an open house in August. We were planning to have an open house where the teachers, hopefully the teachers would be in, the kids could come in, where it's not so structured, where they could go from, say, station to station with the help of student council or our teachers if they volunteered, just to get them more familiar. In my first year, it was so interesting to see how long it took for a sixth grader to open their locker or know where their class is going to be, or where's the B wing, you know. So we're trying to come up with ideas with Stacy at DBS to try to make that a little bit easier. We went, Shannon Johnson and myself went down in May, I think, the first year I was there, and talked with the fifth graders about their scheduling and their courses, and you know, we put a face to each kid and so on, and us to them. And I think more of that has to happen just to support them. It's tough, you know.
It is. It's a tough transition. And
Yeah.
listen, I know I'm not alone. I won't speak for everyone. Amazing job you're doing over there. I mean,
We have a lot of great
different
people.
school, it's a different mentality. It's going great, and you're doing a great job, you and your staff.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, these two next to me are absolutely amazing. I can rely on them 24/7. But the chemistry that we all have right now is fabulous. And I won't go into any great stories, but Greg and I have moved forward in a great way this year, in a professional, but also in a friendship. There was nothing ever wrong or any problems like that, but we've made some great strides together, and Sylvia's coming along absolutely awesome, and she fits right in. But again, there was a reason why I thanked the directors and the supervisors as well, because we try to infuse them all the time in our conversations, and it's working out really great.
We're also split up the sixth grade with Ms. Rego and myself, so now we have two of us working together because sixth graders are so needy. So right off the bat, we have two VPs that they'll get to know, and they'll see one of us throughout their time there. So she's wonderful. She kind of volunteered, but we pushed her in the right direction. It helps. Yeah, so it's a good blend.
Well,
but it's double trouble. Now we can have a good time with them, really tease and have some fun, you know.
Good. And it's funny how much, not funny, but how much this keeps compounding itself when you think about it. We're talking about how hard transition is for sixth graders. You know, there's a possibility we coming in next year with seventh graders who've never been in the building,
Right.
sixth graders and eighth graders who've barely been in the building. So, the more we look at this, we have some really big challenges, but I have total faith in you guys. Like Anthony said, you're doing a great job there, and but there's definitely challenges, and like we said, all those kids who haven't opened lockers, they still haven't opened lockers.
You're right.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna
On that note, too, we have, the counseling system
Yes.
we have right now is the best we've ever had. Our counselors, guidance counselors, are hands-on more than we've ever been. Mr. Fisher also has an ABC program, so they're all taking groups now, which they've started over the past few years. When we come back, that's going to be the key. It's fine to be in the classroom, it's fine to learn, but the kids right now haven't had the relationship issues or how to deal with relationships, how to work with each other, how to speak. If you go into a classroom, many times they just won't come out and speak. A lot of them will chat, and that's what we see.
Right.
You see a lot more of chat.
They're texting back and forth. That's going to be a huge transition.
Yep.
It's going to be that guidance counseling department, along with Doreen Consamalo and our ESS staff that just moved in, which is great, and they all get along.
Yeah.
You have 5 members right there to really spread out some of that help.
Yeah, it's terrific. Terrific. Does anyone have any?
I have it's probably a dumb question, but Unified Elective Program, it says MD population. What does MD stand for?
Multiple disabled, and I can, Unified is where our regular education students will participate in those courses with the multiple disabled students. So the actual framework would be in those courses 10, we're going to limit it to 10 regular ed students, and then the multiple disabled students based on their levels.
Very excited about that.
I just want to reiterate what Mr. Walsh and Mr. Esposito said. From your first day on the job, I got a lot of feedback from the students. They were much happier with you and what your team has accomplished, and that's something that's only continued throughout. So I want to thank you for that.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I do have a question and I do have a comment. First of all, Ms. Rago, is there any truth to the fact that you wanted that all-purpose room to be a Spanish language learning and enrichment lab?
I did. I take away my roots. That's all I care about, Spanish.
And Mr. Gluhusky, wonderful presentation, but I've got to point out the number 8. 8, Mr. Gluhusky. 8 times you mentioned Mr. Coleman'sberger's name in your presentation. Far too much. Far too much.
Well, they do a great job, Mr. Doc.
Great job, guys. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yay! Okay, and our elementary crew, come on up. And I believe we made a deal that Mr. Byrne is not going to speak tonight.
No, get the hook.
I just want you guys to know when I win the Powerball tomorrow, I'll take care of all these cuts.
Mega Millions tonight.
Is it working?
Somebody help him with the mic.
Come on, help.
There you go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Preston, principal of Arlith Elementary School. I'll be starting the presentation for the elementary schools. Our goals fall into 2 main areas. The first one that we worked on for 2020-21 was instruction. The second one was culture and climate. Our instructional goals will look very similar or kind of mirror what Marilyn talked about earlier. Some of those instructional goals kind of shifted on the fly this year during the pandemic, so we had to start thinking about instruction, not only in-person instruction, but remote and hybrid instruction as well. So as we were trying to complete our goals in literacy, we still completed our classroom libraries, we added some leveled readers, we put in our Fontes and Pinnell classroom for grade 4. In mathematics, we continued to support our Envision series and implement it, trying to implement it for our second year with this new program. One of the big things that we noticed that we were giving out supplies, as Marilyn mentioned, for the remote students, that they could have the manipulatives and the supplies and materials that they needed. So we had purchased some supplies and materials for that. We also had to think about training and professional development in both language arts and math for our, not just the programs itself, but for hybrid instruction and remote instruction. And how do we support our students through our TI? In culture and climate, we're continued to keep our responsive classroom initiative alive and our PlayWorks initiative alive as well. Also with our character education program. We also added this year the Race for Equity and Harmony, and we're developing programs and activities to promote diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. And how we're thinking about ways how we support our students through the pandemic. As you mentioned a couple times, there are a lot of students who suffered grief and social isolation, and we're trying to find ways to support them as well. For 2021, we're going to continue with those 2 major topics of instruction and culture and climate. This year for instruction for literacy, we're looking to get those Fontes Pinnell classroom for grade 5, as Marilyn mentioned, is pretty much a necessity so that they could have a continuous instruction or continuity of instruction all the way up to grade 5. Continue with our leveled readers. In math, we're going to continue with the Envision series, and we're going to look at ways using data to address the learning needs of the students as a result of the pandemic. And we're going to continue with our training and professional development. We have some real good things going on now. We want to continue that and use the data with RTI to address specific needs that we're finding, identify learning gaps, use data, and work to identify some available resources to create interventions to help these students with the learning gaps. In culture and climate, we're going to continue with the responsive classroom. One thing that you need to recognize is that the social emotional learning part is just as important as the academics, and that these programs that we have, PlayWorks and responsive classroom, are really, really important for the social emotional learning that for our students. We're going to continue with our character education programs and of course our Race for Equity and Harmony. We're building the foundation this year, and we're looking to continue with that and grow it even more next year. And again, support our students based on trauma caused by the pandemic. Our guidance counselors are working real hard. They're creating programs, they're creating activities, they're doing new lessons, they're pushing into the classroom, and I think we're just going to continue to support that as we go. And that's it.
Short and sweet. I have a non-budget related question. So one of my favorite times, and I mean this sincerely, is reading to those kids. I think it's March.
Read Across America is, March 2nd.
So, are you guys planning on doing something maybe towards the end of the year so we can get this in for the kids? I know they like it. As much.
That's on my agenda for tomorrow for the good doctor. But we are talking about Read Across America activities. Even if it's virtual, we're going to be inviting guest readers in, so we will send you an invite.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great job. Just like I said with the middle school, you guys are going to have the same deal. You're going to have first graders who've never been to school, kindergartners who've never been to school. It's work, but I know that you guys are up to the task. We have great administrators. You guys, all of you, done such a good job this year making our kids feel good in school, and great job.
Bob, I'm just going to ask you for our 4 new members. Could you please explain to them what RTI is?
RTI is response to intervention. It's a methodology that we use to identify the learning needs of specific learning needs of students, use data to track those, and then create interventions so that we could close those gaps. And it's all tracked on a program, and the teachers meet as a team to create these interventions, share ideas, and then implement those interventions to see how successful they are, all addressing specific learning needs and trying to close the gaps.
Thank you.
Mr. Preston,
did I do okay with that, Dr. Labby?
You did. Mr. Byrne, can you elaborate on that and how the zone of proximal learning applies to that?
I think it's broken.
Dr. Labby, bite your tongue. Bite your tongue. Get the hook.
Mr. Byrne has a great sense of humor, and we love him. Tim, use the microphone. Use the microphone.
I will say I miss him.
Microphone.
We turn.
You're on. You're on.
Send you a message.
No, you're on the microphone. Use the microphone. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's not working.
Great understanding of social and cultural implications on children's development. So it's a fascinating topic. It's very pertinent right now in regard to what we're going through as a nation. Not only because of just what's been happening in our country from the equity issues, but also because of the pandemic. And that's obviously a very great topic for us right now in regard to how we're going to approach that, for our children. So,
That would be splendid, my friend. Thank you very much. All of you, great job.
All right. Thank you again, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Yep, that concludes our presentations, Mr. Esposito.
All right. So I guess we will move to some board discussions, and we'll move through those quickly, I am sure. First up, Mr. Balka, you have anything for finance for us?
Yeah, we had a meeting the other day on the 12th. First, we spoke about the ESIP program, how the lighting replacement started today. It's going pretty well. They're preparing bids for the roofing at the Wilson Slover for some minor roofing work that needs to be done on some other roofs to get ready for the solar project. And I guess they're working on the RFP for the solar PPA. On the infrastructure side, we spoke about the Eisenhower windows. They just told us the punch list items are remaining. The elementary secure vestibules are moving along, but the windows are incorrect again with the glass, so they're going to be waiting again for another set of glass. And the HVAC at the high school gym is moving along. And then we briefly discussed the budget and went over how it was $15 million cut to get to a balanced budget at CAP. So everything you hear that was cut today, remember, either we have to find more revenue to put it back in or find another place to cut to get it back in. Right. So we can't just add stuff back in because we want to. It's going to take some work to get the budget, to keep the budget balanced and at cap and fit all this stuff in there.
Yeah, it's going to be a long couple of months, no doubt. Any questions on finance from Mr. Balka or Ms. Hill? Thank you, Dan. Mr. Walsh, personnel.
Personnel met earlier today. We discussed some open vacancies and also the need for a director of student services, as well as a payroll benefits coordinator.
Thank you. We'll move along. Anyone has any questions, you just jump in. Mrs. Bloom, you're not last tonight. Well, you are last.
Well, I'm always last. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm used to it.
Middlesex County, anything going on?
Yeah, we did have a meeting of county leaders. The guest was probably someone who Dr. Labby knows, Larry Pinto, who's the principal in Oakland. And it's a very small district, but what they addressed was what they're doing for their special ed population. And I can say that, we are head and shoulders above everything that's being done. Again, it's a very small district, so they're not on the level that we're on. But, the conversation was, in general, what districts are doing to help the special ed population, which, everybody's trying their best to get the kids in, and when they can't get them in, to get them, assistance where they need it. The other things that came up, which I'm sure most of you have heard, but important for the general population to know, is that Governor Murphy has suspended the state exit exam, which is the test that the graduating seniors would have to take. But of course, as Dr. Shadyac will tell you, we always make sure that our kids have an alternate way to meet all of those requirements, even if there is no exam. The other piece is that the student growth objective, which was always factored into a teacher's evaluation, is being waived this year because of the pandemic. And also being waived is the limit on substitutes. Previously, a substitute could only work for 21 days, and then they had to leave the assignment. So they're granting a waiver on that so we can keep our substitutes to cover our kids' classes. So that's it.
Good information. Any questions for Ms. Bloom? None. Carrie, you'll have a report next month, I presume, right? You guys didn't meet yet.
We're meeting Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay, great. Okay. Presuming no one has any additional questions on our board discussions,
Mr. Esposito, may I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very pleased to, in my talk soups, I take the time to try to go ahead and promote all the wonderful things that our students are accomplishing in our district. And many times we also, during these meetings, talk about the accomplishments of our students when they graduate from Sayreville War Memorial High School. And it's my honor and privilege, and she's probably going to get upset at me for doing this, but it's my honor and privilege to recognize a former student who is in our audience today, Julia Block. And she's currently attending Rutgers University, and I believe she's a journalism major in media studies. Not only is she excelling there as she did at Middlesex County College before she went to Rutgers, but she is here tonight because she is the reporter now
for Tap into Raritan Bay, and she will be covering our school districts and others during their proceedings in board meetings and other borough affairs and so forth. So I can't say enough how proud and impressed I am with her and all that she's accomplished. Not only when she was in high school, I believe she graduated in the top 6% of the class here, but all that she's accomplished at Middlesex and now at Rutgers. And for goodness gracious, she's already a reporter for a media outsource. So quite an accomplishment, and congratulations. And we welcome, because Julie is going to be coming to our meetings, attending, and she may even reach out to you and ask you some questions.
Good job. Congratulations. Excellent.
Somebody wants good press.
Yeah, absolutely. ESPOF. Okay. At this, yeah, thanks. I tried. I got to top Dr. Labby. It's tough. At this time, we can open it up to the public for any agenda items only. Eric, anyone on? We are closing public for agenda items. Dr. Labby, I think you're up for your report.
Yes, and I promise I'm going to be serious this time.
All right.
Serious and brief.
Let's begin with finance. Item number 12 on page 3. Dr. Shetty been hard at work again, finding us grant money and working with Mr. Malloy to go ahead and allocate some of it. So we're asking you to approve the Addressing Student Learning Loss Grant, which is part of the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, otherwise known as the CARES Act. Again, you can find that on page 3, and that's for $156,000. So we need you to approve the submission of that application. That's it for the big things on finance. Are there any other questions or comments regarding anything on finance? Here, I should take this off here. And next, student achievement. I bring your attention to item 2. We're asking to approve the new Introduction to Engineering course. I'm very excited about this. As you all know, we implemented our STEM Academy along with our Career and Technical Education program. And I know that Dr. Shediak, Ms. Maharana, Ms. O'Connor, and Mr. Rubino are hard at work developing the next step with regard to our STEM implementation, and that would be engineering. So this Introduction to Engineering course is a wonderful accomplishment, and I'm looking forward to witnessing our students perform in it in the year 2021-2022. You can find more information on that on page 6. Similarly, we're asking you to approve a title change for a course. We're going to move from Trends in Computer Science, HTML, which Mr. Glock Malloy can give you a brief tutorial on if you'd like later, to front-end web design. And I was told by Mr. Glock Malloy, because I had to process this myself, that HTML is still a part of web design, but it's the back end of web design. So we're moving on to the front end. Not sure what I'm talking about right now, but again, go to Mr. Glock Malloy if you have any questions. You can find that on page 7. Numbers 4 and 5, which you can also find on page 7. As we do every year, we're asking you to approve the participation of our students in the middle school and high school in the Middlesex County Arts Middle and High School programs. We're very proud that 17 of our middle school students and 13 of our high school students will be participating this year. Another very cool thing we're asking you to approve, thanks to Mr. Howard, we're asking you to approve the creation of the Rho Kappa National Social Studies Honor Society at the high school. And of course, Mr. Howard will serve as the volunteer for the 2020-21 school year. And finally, Mr. Rubino made mention of the Voices Club that you approved back in October. But item number 8, which you can find on page 7, he's asking you to approve another very meaningful, very current, and very needed council, and that would be the Inclusion, Diversity, Equality, and Awareness, aka IDEA Council at the high school. And as you can see there in the motion, the mission of the council is to educate our school community on the strengths of their actions, the importance of their ideas, and the real values in their hearts. And based upon what has transpired in our nation over the past year, particularly last week, I would say this is very timely. Any other questions on student achievement.
Dr. Labby, on the arts middle school and arts high, is that going to be virtual, or are they actually having classes?
Dr. Shetty?
It's virtual.
Virtual? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's move along to personnel. And we're asking you to approve normally what we approve. Items 9 through 11, and 28, which you can find on pages 17 and the addendum. We're asking you to hire new certificated and non-certificated staff for this school year. Similarly, items 13 and 15, as well as 29, which can be found on pages 19 and 20, and the addendum, we're asking you to approve the transfer of non-certificated and certificated staff for this year. And then finally, on numbers 24 and 25, as well as 32 and 33, we're asking you to approve the suspension with pay and termination of 2 employees. You can find that on page 25 and the addendum. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, suspension with pay, resignation and termination of 2 employees. Any questions on personnel?
Nope.
That's my report.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the board as you had time to think about that in-depth report from Dr. Labby?
Dr. Labby, I have a question on, the building and ground usage. The rec department, when they come in for wrestling and basketball, do they bring their own equipment, or do they use our equipment?
They use their own equipment?
Okay, and then after they leave, our guys have to come in and sanitize everything? And the brownies, too?
And they have to follow the same rules that we have to follow. Excuse me?
The little brownies, when the brownies come in to, where are they? Truman. They're going to be at Truman?
Yes.
Okay, and are these numbers limited, or we're not limiting numbers?
We are limiting numbers,
Oh,
10.
okay.
10 is the number.
Okay.
Now, the difference is with indoor sports, basically all players, coaches, referees, and any other people who are essential to the games are permitted in there, but no spectators at all at any of those athletic events. With regard to any other types of events, it's limited to 10 people. People are required to wipe down surfaces themselves that they utilize, but naturally, after the usage of our rooms, our custodians will be cleaning them.
And is the rec department making sure that all of these people are cleared medically, that
They are responsible for their own screening procedures.
Right. Okay.
Yes. We're not responsible for that.
Yeah, no, I know.
What we're responsible for is the capacity
Right, but they should be
requirements
doing
and things
that,
like
right?
that. They do that, yep,
Sure that
themselves.
all of their
We also are
participants-
requiring them to clean up after themselves to the best of their ability as well.
Okay.
Utilizing their own equipment and so forth.
I'm sorry. If there's no other questions, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept Dr. Labby's Superintendents Report.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom.
Accepted. Second. Sorry.
Ms. Pavin, got it. All right. Roll call, Ms. Hill, please.
Mr. Balca?
Okay, D number 9, page 18, I would vote no, yes on all items.
I'm sorry, I heard D9.
D number 9, page 18, I
Okay.
vote no on, and yes on everything else.
Okay. Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Mrs. Napolitano?
I have to say page 9, item 1, abstain on, because that's my
Okay.
name. And also on, well, it's page 25 and page 3. Item number 25 and item number 33, I also have to abstain on that. Yes for everything else.
Okay. Mrs. Pavone?
Yes to everything.
Mr. John Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Patrick Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we'll open it up to the public for any items pertaining to the district. Eric? All right, we will close public for district items. And again, once again, just one more time around the board, if anybody has any general questions or comments they'd like to make. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Walsh?
Second.
Mrs. Bloom, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See you in a couple weeks, guys.